What's up guys and welcome to my video. I've just got back from Gamescom 2013 and it was a great experience, but I had plenty of hands-on time with both the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One controllers. And what they like. Let's start with the Xbox One controller. Now the Xbox One controller is fairly similar to the Xbox 360 controller. This of course is a good thing because the Xbox 360 is widely regarded as one of the best controllers ever made. What they've done is they've slimmed it down at the back. There's no big bulging battery pack anymore. They've changed the analog sticks so they're almost like spiky a little bit, and they say they give a lot more precision, and they do give more precision. I got to use it in Call of Duty, Forza, Rise, loads of different games, and they did feel very good actually. The sticks did feel very good. How much better than the Xbox 360 controller? A little bit. I could definitely tell that they were better, but you know, it's nothing really to write home about. But you're definitely not going to be disappointed if you get your hands on one. They do feel very nice. The triggers, they do feel very nice. They have changed a little bit, not massively, but the main thing that has changed about them is that they almost have like force feedback in them. Now Forza was the only game, at least at Gamescom, that actually uses this feature. But basically, when you hold down the triggers, they react to what's going on in the game. So for example, if you're braking around a corner, then it's going to feel a lot harder than just putting the accelerator down using the right trigger. And of course it changes depending on what surface you're on and all sorts of different stuff. It's all coded into the game. But basically it's like a force feedback like you'd get on a steering wheel, but actually in-game with the triggers. And I have to say that it felt very different, but it did feel very good indeed. As for how it felt in the hand, it actually, to be perfectly honest, felt a little bit worse in the hand than the Xbox 360 controller. It's one of the things you'd get used to, but basically it's a bit longer, so it doesn't quite fit in your hand the same way the 360 controller did. And it may just be that I'm so used to the 360 controller, but it did feel a little bit off, but not a major deal. I think the main thing about the Xbox One controller that I really didn't like at all was the placement of the bumpers. I've got here an Xbox 360 controller, and when I'm using them, my hands are pretty much over the bumpers, like this, or over the triggers. Whereas in the new Xbox One controller, I can't really say how they were, but the bumpers were kind of out of reach. I had to kind of move my hands back a little bit to access them, and they just didn't feel as good as the bumpers on this controller, it's got to be said. Not really a reason not to buy an Xbox, but definitely something to consider. You'll see when you get your hands on it. It just didn't feel very nice at all, and it felt like I had to put a lot of effort in to actually use them. So for example, Call of Duty, like throwing a grenade, putting some equipment down, rather than just being third nature like a normal controller is, I had to actively kind of go out of my way to use the bumpers, which isn't something I really want to be doing at all when I'm playing a game. So overall they've improved some things and some things not quite so good. The buttons themselves, you know, they felt fine. I wouldn't really say that they felt much better or much worse than before. I had no problems. The controller does look nicer than it did before. The directional buttons, the pad, are a lot better than they were before, similar to the revised Xbox 360 controller that they did recently. But how does that compare to the PlayStation 4 controller? Unlike the Xbox One controller, realistically the PlayStation 4 controller is completely different to the PlayStation 3 controller. They've just kind of made it a little bit bigger, as if they'd like just used the enlarged tool. It feels really comfortable, really nice in the hand. All the triggers and all the buttons have changed slightly. The triggers especially, they feel really nice in your hand, as if you've seen the other video that I've done on the PlayStation 4 controller, then you'll see my thoughts more in detail. But it definitely felt a lot nicer, and to be perfectly honest, it did feel nicer than the Xbox One controller, just because nothing about it was kind of bad, if you like. It all felt really nice and easy to use, which is what you want from a controller. Touchpads can be used like a cursor on the screen, so if you just kind of do that, you have a little mouse appear on menus and stuff, which was nice. I guess it could be easier navigation, but for example, War Thunder, which is the airplane game, you can use that to actually control the plane, but you wouldn't want to do that. It was, you know, it's not very accurate really. It's not got that much use, but you can click it, and the options button is essentially the start button, brings up the menu, and obviously you've got the share button on the left hand side. So overall I have to say that I did prefer the PlayStation 4 controller. It just felt nicer in the hand. The Xbox One is definitely stronger in some areas, like for example those triggers I feel are quite a lot better, and especially in racing games and stuff, you know, there's not really any competition. The PlayStation 4 controller does sadly lose out, but of course the PlayStation 4 has got a few unique things up its sleeve. It's got that light bar, of course, which we don't really know how it's going to be used, because obviously you need the PlayStation Eye to get a lot of the functionality out of it, and we haven't really heard that much about it. But it does kind of change colour depending on what's going on, but I think that could really just be a tiny bit gimmicky, but we'll have to wait and see. You've probably guessed, but if I had to choose a controller, it'd definitely be the PlayStation 4 controller, but that said, nothing really that bad about the Xbox One controller, other than the slightly dodgy bumpers. Thanks for watching this video, and why not subscribe to PC Centric for more videos like this, and we've gone into screensaver.